I know everyone's talking about Borderlands 4, and don't worry, so am I, obviously, but we still have to appreciate the fact that Bethesda is getting still absolutely decimated. If you now search on YouTube and write in Starfield or Bethesda, you're maybe getting something positive about 76 from people who are mentally insane, and you're literally not getting anything else positive at all. All the videos about the Starfield, especially, are just how it's absolutely broken, absolutely unplayable, boring, dull, and Bethesda should feel bad about themselves. Seriously, there is not a single person, as far as I know, still being actively positive about Starfield. Now, granted, that means that two people who are going to be positive about Starfield that are going to comment about it, but I mean, still, that's not a lot in the grand scheme of 330,000 people peak player base on launch, okay?
2 years after Starfield's release, its last unique feature has finally been outdone. No Man's Sky's new Voyagers update adds ship interiors, the one thing Starfield still had over it. Prior to this, No Man's Sky kinda beat Starfield at everything when it came to a space exploration game.
Not kinda, but did. Also, by the way, having ship interiors in Starfield is not a great achievement because you have loading screens and they're behind loading screens. It's not like you could have gone out in space in Starfield and, actually did stuff in your ship that really mattered. No, it didn't work like that.
Starfield had 1,000 planets. No Man's Sky had infinite. Starfield had loading screens. No Man's Sky didn't. Starfield could only generate large grids. No Man's Sky could generate entire planets. When No
True.
Man's Sky first released in 2016, it was highly criticized for being too shallow, boring, and not really meeting expectations.
I mean, that's a very kind way of saying, and not a single person liked No Man's Sky because it was a disaster, okay? No Man's Sky's release was probably worse than Starfield. Arguably at the same level of Fallout 76 and, spacing Cyberpunk 2077. But No Man's Sky at the end is probably the greatest redemption story in gaming, and people are now seeing it. Second, I would say, is probably Cyberpunk 2077 as a redemption story with all the fixes and whatnots. But yeah, by the way, I absolutely love how Starfield players are saying, "Oh, don't worry, they're gonna launch an expansion or a patch, and it's gonna be the turnaround point, like in Cyberpunk 2077." No, it's not. That ship has sailed. At this point, I don't think we're getting an expansion after the. Well, it's even hard to say that we're going to get an expansion after this. If you look at Starfield's SteamDB chart, it goes like this. And there's an expansion somewhere along here, and you can barely tell it exists because not that expansion was given to most people for free because they bought the game. And I mean, it probably sold literally 1,000 copies, in my opinion, because most people got it for free, and even those people did not care to play it. That is insane.
After years of continuous free updates, the game just reached 110,000 concurrent players, marking the highest player count since the game's release. Returning players found not just a game indistinguishable from the first one released, but an exceptional game overall. No Man's Sky somehow went from over-promising to over-delivering. Which brings
True.
us to Starfield. Ever since its release, it has divided fans and received a lot of criticism.
Starfield fanboys are gonna be like, "Oh, but look at the sky, it looks pretty, right? It looks really pretty." Yes, yes, yes. Admittedly, it's impossible to make, a picture of the sky ugly, but that's a different conversation, I guess.
Prior to this game, Bethesda had always leaned on a particular formula, so much so that it was coined the Bethesda formula. Handcrafted open worlds full of dungeons, side quests and activities to find. It worked every time, with the studio winning Game of the Year multiple times. Bethesda knew what games they should make, and they excelled in making them. Starfield broke that pattern. Instead of handcrafted maps and dungeons, the studio implemented procedural generated worlds. Rather than competing with other handcrafted RPGs,
Hey, listen. Shattered Space, Starfield's expansion, had a fully handcrafted planet. And it was worse than the randomly generated ones. So, it's not about the fact that something is randomly generated by AI or something's handmade by Bethesda or whatever. It's about the fact that Bethesda's just a complete bunch of losers who have absolutely no idea how to do anything properly. That's how easy it is. That's it.
they followed No Man's Sky formula, and unfortunately, this didn't work. With lesser technology, they were unable to match the quality of that game, but that wasn't the only issue. By focusing so hard on this new procedural setup, they moved away from their own formula, and as a result, RPG aspects were stripped down, quests were generic, exploration felt pointless, and the very formula that they were known for was nowhere to be seen. Bethesda ended up with a game that tried to be both an RPG and a space sim, and nailed neither. Now, Starfield had some redeeming qualities, with shipbuilding being one of the standouts. That was one thing that Starfield.
Yeah, it was a standout, but it still wasn't actually good. There's tons of problems with shipbuilding, and the biggest is the fact that no one likes it. On average, no one gives a shit.
Had over its competitor, one thing that could sway some fans. And now, after the new Voyager's update, not only has No Man's Sky matched it, but they've improved it even further and implemented it into a world that has more space exploration. So, what's left for Starfield? What should they do next? And is this the final nail in the coffin? Well, in this video, I will attempt to answer that question.
I hope not, because that would be bad for me. I have made a lot of money from making fun of Starfield's disasters.
So, without further ado, let's get into it.
Also, like the video, it helps out a lot. I greatly appreciate it, and I guarantee you more people will see this. If you think this is important, you should like the video or hype the video if you're on a mobile device. Please do that. It's a great help, and it will guaranteed make more people see this. So if you want to make fun of Bethesda and maybe force them to do better through, this, then please, by all means.
So first of all, let's discuss why Starfield didn't quite satisfy Bethesda fans. Bethesda's design shift was the first big issue. In past games like Skyrim and Fallout 4, the worlds were handcrafted, with unique dungeons, events, and side quests scattered everywhere. Exploration always felt rewarding, and if you saw unexplored terrain, you knew something new was waiting. It was all worth your time. This formula had worked since Morrowind and only improved with each game. With Starfield, Bethesda abandoned that setup. Instead of one handcrafted map, players got 1,000 procedurally generated planets. Every time you arrived at a planet, the game would create a grid, which would randomly place landmarks from a bank of pre-built options. Plants, minerals, dungeons, everything was random. As a result, planets felt barren and empty, with landmarks spread far apart and little of interest along the way. In past Bethesda games,
And arguably one of the worst things about this was the fact that you knew all of the landmarks, obviously, when you landed on a planet. So you knew exactly where you're going and what kind of experience you're getting. But Starfield's biggest problem was if you have entered two caves, you have entered the third one and the fourth one and the fifth one already, because they're just going to be an amalgamation of the two previous caves. Same with pretty much every interior house that you enter. They're gonna have the same problem. If you have been in two houses, you have been in the third one, because there's just not enough actual RNG tiles, and all of the tiles in general kind of feel the same. So even if you can't recognize, oh, I have been in this room 20 minutes ago, and there was a table there, a cart there, a tarp there, a tarp there, a cooling fan there, a cooling fan here, and a cooling fan there. And also, Starfield was the first game where Bethesda decided that, oh wow, now we can completely oversaturate the world with random bullshit, let's do that. And by that I mean they literally just wanted to squeeze something in and every single nook and cranny that they could. And this ended with the fact that people didn't actually know what's interactable, what's usable, what's pick-upable. So they needed to add in a radar so people can actually see if they can interact with something. That alone should honestly make you completely redesign your approach to, design. So, it also had other bad things because it over just saturated things. I have spazzed out about this so many times, and I'll happily do it again, boys. Trust me, I will. I absolutely will. And it is the fact that because they feel the need to oversaturate everything, on every single panel in every room, you're gonna see something. There's gonna be some random shitty pipe going somewhere. Typically, it's gonna be some kind of air conditioning unit, cooler, or something like that. Like there's gonna be an AC there. You're gonna literally see like a 15 vents in a room sometimes, and 10 ACs and like a bunch of pipes for no reason. Like why are there pipes? Don't know, but they are there. And tarps, man, Bethesda loves their tarps. Every room pretty much has like a tarp or 7 in it. It is insane. That's how they ruin design in general.
Games, it wasn't so much about the destination, where you were going, it was the journey on the way that was the highlight. On the way to quests, the player would pass by forgotten ruins, caves that begged to be explored, and random NPC events that demanded attention. It made the player want to walk everywhere because there was so much to see. But in Starfield, the trek was just empty space. Even the destinations felt generic, with only about 20 pre-built dungeons recycled across 1,000 planets, leading to constant repetition. This ruined the experience as not only was the journey now dull, but the destination might not be worth it. Players were no longer guaranteed unique experiences for exploring, so many quickly stopped after a handful of planets. So straight away, you've just removed a core aspect of what made a Bethesda title successful, a world worth exploring. But it goes deeper, as this core design breaks everything else. Without a static world to build quest stories within, the rest of the formula begins to crumble. Bethesda games were also known for their huge selection of side quests, but this got messy. Say you meet a man in Skyrim who wants you to save his wife from a tower. Well, the world has this. There is a specific tower there with a unique layout, a special boss fight, and his wife is at the top of the tower, waiting for you to help her. So Bethesda would build this tower, place it on the map, and then design a story around it, a one-off experience in a certain location. In Starfield, as the world is constantly changing with no consistency, you end up getting side quests that feel generic. Fetch quests. Collect a bounty from a man in a space station on a moon. Kill an enemy located in a similar space station on a similar moon. Or find an item in a clone of that first space station on yet another similar moon.
He knows! He knows!
The quests in the game were Radiant quests, which are procedurally generated quests from the computer. They never run out, but
the worst thing about Radiant quests, by the way, is the fact that people now know that they're Radiant quests, because Bethesda couldn't keep their stupid mouth shut. When Fallout 4 came out, I did not know anything about it, and I did not know what are Radiant quests. So, every time Garvey told me, a settlement needs your help, champion, I went and helped the settlement because I thought that this is leading somewhere. So I helped like 5 settlements, and then it dawned on me, oh my god, this is never gonna stop. There's no reward. This just fucking exists to annoy me. Why? There you go, that's Radiant quests for you. Completely pointless.
Amount to simple static objectives with no story. Most of Starfield's best side quests take place in one of the few handmade towns, as those areas were crafted like the old Bethesda model. But outside of those areas, which is 99% of the game, quests boil down to boring repetitive fetch quests. So straight away, all the key elements that people love.
Wait, there's no way you're gonna tell me that Bethesda just didn't go into Pokemon Mixer and make alien life based on that. There's no way you're gonna tell me Pokemon Mixer was not used to create this wildlife. And by the way, that's why people are only saying that there's like one type of enemy and it's a human in this game, because there's actually like a lot of different aliens, but all of them look stupid, shitty, and boring, and are not even really dangerous when you can just jetpack above them in pretty much every case. And that's pretty much it. No, okay, there's humans and there's pteramorphs. Okay, that's it. Nothing else. There's literally no other alien types.
Boring, repetitive fetch quests. So straight away, all the key elements that people loved about previous Bethesda titles have all been removed. Now, it doesn't help that the writing was poor to boot. Bethesda's lead writer...
The writing wasn't poor. The writing was absolutely abysmal. And Emil Pagliarino, who is currently working on probably the next Fallout 5. Happy, aren't you? And obviously Elder Scrolls 6. Yes, the guy who made Starfield's genius quest design doubled down and then called the player base stupid for thinking it's not amazing, is making Elder Scrolls 6 quests. This is the reason why people have literally completely given up on the idea that Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be even remotely good.
Emil Pagliarulo has faced criticism for years, but in earlier titles, weak stories were carried by the strength of existing lore. Elder Scrolls had Michael Kirkbride's deep mythology. Fallout had the work of Tim Kaine. With Starfield, Emil had to create a universe from scratch, and the result...
To be fair, Tim Kaine didn't really make the lore that much, okay? He had impact, but I mean, he's not actually the lore guy.
Felt unimaginative. Instead of alien civilizations, strange mysteries, or unique cultures, for example Mass Effect, players got space cowboys, space pirates, and reskinned Earth societies.
Hell yeah.
Starbucks was Terrabrew.
Hell
Wells Fargo was Gallbank. Raiders were Spacers. Radiant procedurally generated objectives replaced handcrafted questlines, making the experience...
Wait, how old is this video? Have we seen it be 5 days? No, we have not seen this before. So, what the hell? I have a feeling I have heard a lot of this before, but some of this is new. A weird feeling of deja vu. Boys, are you also having it, or am I just tweaking hard?
Shallow and repetitive. The universe had limitless potential, but the writing reduced it to something bland and forgettable. At the same time, Bethesda moved further away from their RPG roots. Earlier titles like Morrowind gave players massive freedom. Your decisions shaped the story and the world. With each entry released after Morrowind, Bethesda shifted to a more broader, action-orientated formula, and by Fallout 4, the player's role was already defined before the game began. Settlement building was prioritized over decision making. Rather than stat-based combat, it became more action-orientated. Bethesda moved from their roots and became more mainstream and simplified.
God, the start of Fallout 4 is so bad. Not because you mean Godby, but you get a minigun and power armor and you kill a Deathclaw. And it actually feels so incredibly bad to kill the Deathclaw. I remember when I killed the Deathclaw the first time in Fallout 4. I ran out of bullets! I ran out of bullets! That thing was just too spongy. I ran out of bullets. Do you understand what I'm saying? It was insane.
Starfield continued this direction. Dialogue often gave the illusion of choice without consequence, with lifeless NPC interactions and redundant options that added nothing new.
Yeah, this is a new way that I judge games, by the way. If you have me dialogue options that should have impact but they change nothing, you shouldn't even have those dialogue options in the beginning. It's just gonna make things worse, because then I will actively understand how little impact I have, aka none, and that you're just trying to gaslight me in believing that I do.
Persuasion felt like a shallow minigame. Lockpicking was less...
It is a shallow minigame, because it's RNG based. There's literally never a point to not click either orange or red, because you're just rolling the dice. And if you always pick green, you're never actually gonna win. That's the funniest part.
Engaging than previous entries, and there were few meaningful opportunities to roleplay. So at this point, Bethesda had lost so much of its identity. Starfield lacked so many of the elements that made their past games so special, but the competition didn't stop improving. Elden Ring introduced a handcrafted map, full of unique dungeons and landmarks surpassing Skyrim. Witcher 3 raised standards on what a side quest could be, with each having unique stories, memorable characters and choices that impacted the quest outcome. Baldur's Gate 3 took roleplaying to a whole other level, giving the player unprecedented freedom to shape the story however they'd like. Red Dead Redemption 2 improved on NPC realism, Cyberpunk improved gunplay, and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 improved on its predecessor.
Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is, Pip's small hat slop.
So, whilst Bethesda abandoned their own formula and their own roots, other studios came in and not only picked up from where Bethesda left off with their older titles, but improved upon them as well. By not sticking to their proven design, Bethesda had fallen years behind the open world RPG competition. But why do this? For what reason? Well, because they wanted to compete with a different type of game. A No Man's Sky kind of game. They wanted to offer space exploration. Now, due to the limitations of the creation engine, space travel wasn't actually an option. Instead, we had loading screens. So, the player would load into their ship, load into space.
People are forgetting that if you were a competitive Starfield player, like I was, then you could get from a planet to your objective in just 3 loading screens and 1 unskippable animation. If you were not someone who actually looked into how to skip loading screens, on average you needed 5 to 6 loading screens and 2 unskippable animations. Just to go from objective to objective to another objective. Yes, it was that bad, and it still is, by the way.
Then load into a planet grid. So on paper, it was supposed to be a No Man's Sky clone, but in reality, it turned into navigating a series of menus and waiting on loading screens. No Man's Sky offered all of this with no limitations. Although No Man's Sky launched to a poor reception, through determination and hard work, the game has become the ultimate space exploration game. Where Starfield stumbles, No Man's Sky thrives. Starfield locks players behind loading screens, fast travel menus, and procedurally generated grids that feel empty and lifeless. No Man's Sky, on the other hand, gives you true freedom. You can seamlessly fly from space to the surface of a planet without interruption, explore entire worlds that feel alive, and discover unique biomes, species, and resources every time you land. Even ship travel is night and day. Starfield reduces it to mini instances, whilst No Man's Sky lets you fly wherever you want, dock at massive...
Remember when Todd Howard said were the astronauts bored because space was empty? Well, shit, Todd Howard, I did not know I'm also an astronaut. Good to know. And remember also when he said no one actually wants to go around the world, which is actually true. But knowing that you can is limiting my fun. Knowing that I could walk around the world even if it takes 5 days, that would significantly boost my fun.
Freighters or warp across galaxies without ever breaking immersion and without a single loading screen. So in short, everything that makes space exploration exciting, variety, freedom, and discovery exists in No Man's Sky, while Starfield feels like a stripped down imitation. So by trying to compete with No Man's Sky, with the limitations of the creation engine, Bethesda just made a weaker version. Their engine simply cannot compete with No Man's Sky. The only thing that made Starfield unique was its ship customization. Mind you, you rarely used your ship.
To be fair, Todd Howard did not want to repeat No Man's Sky. He probably literally could not give less of a shit. Todd Howard's great dream was to make Starfield. And he did, and it failed. My god, must be killing him inside, which just makes me happier.
It was more of an illusion, but the ability to customize it and walk around the interior was a special feature. My personal favourite part of Starfield. But now, No Man's Sky has released the Voyager's update, offering the same options. But not only does this new update offer way more options for customization than Starfield does, but you can actually use your ship to truly travel space, not just pretend. You can have a crew, assign roles. You can now do everything you could do in Starfield, but better. So this leaves Starfield in a very difficult position. They've just announced new DLC is on the way, but at this point, it's hard to see the point. The last DLC, which I purchased for the full price of $30 for a story that took me 4 hours. Okay, I'm not going to go on about it here. There's a video here if you want to hear me complain more, but the point is the last one reviewed bad, scoring a 4.9 on Metacritic. But the point is, what is Starfield now? At the end of the day, Starfield failed because Bethesda walked away from the very formula.
At the end of the day, Starfield failed because Bethesda's a bunch of virtue signaling losers who have such an extreme level of no talent, it has become talent to have no talent amongst them. They do nothing right, they can't make a single fun system, they completely misunderstand the point of their game, and everyone at their company is sniffing their own farts because they think they're the best. Even though for years now, literally everyone has been telling them the opposite. It is kind of wild how absolutely pointless it is to say a single good thing about Bethesda at this point. Anyway, that was AVV Gaming 10 out of 10. Bye!